Welcome to the Flex Forward podcast, where grit meets growth. With your host, Nic Espanet, bringing you stories of resilience, reinvention, and the real climb to success.
All right, everyone, welcome to the Flex Forward podcast. Today we're joined by Nic Lee. Nic is a cabinet and shelter specialist. His company is Iceberg Cabinets. I'll let him go into a little more detail of what that is. I'm glad to have him on today. Nic, welcome to the Flex Forward podcast. Can you let our listeners know a little bit more about Iceberg Cabinets and what a cabinet and shelter specialist does?
So everybody's got internet in their homes. Every business has internet, and it's a matter of how does somebody get connected to whichever provider they're going with. If it's AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, or Spectrum, any internet provider you have, they somehow have to connect to your location. So they do that with equipment, they do that with fiber, they do that with wireless equipment, but it all has to come from one stored facility, and that is either a shelter that you can walk inside of, which has telecom equipment mounted inside that basically is where the routing happens to get you the internet. And then the same thing with a cabinet. It's an outdoor metal steel cabinet. It's the same thing. And both are air conditioned or heated because the equipment that goes inside there, if you have a computer, back in the day when we actually had big computers, it had big fans on it and it had hot air coming out. You got to keep that equipment cool. So everything's air conditioned. So if you've ever been driving, you've come to a stoplight and you look at all four corners, maybe you see like a metal box on the corner. That's something that I sell.
Okay. So, and then those are likely climate controlled too. I didn't even think about that because if you got computer parts in there, especially in Texas, it's air temperature maybe 100, 105, and then you got the sun beating on it too, probably cranks it up, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 degrees more. They talk about a car getting to 170 or 180 degrees pretty quick when it's shut off. So I assume those boxes are very similar if the sun's beating on them all day long. So, wow, this is one of those neat things that I love. One of the things I love about podcasts is something I never thought about, but I'm like, wow, well, this is an industry that's out there that there's a big need and probably a growing need for it.
Yeah, there is. There's a lot of companies that are transitioning right now, and there's a big government initiative that's happening for getting internet to rural areas. So there are, you're driving in the middle of nowhere, you notice you haven't had internet, and if you look around, you might notice there's homes actually there too. Those homes don't even have internet. They might have like DSL, that old school hookup that remember sitting there
Yeah.
thinking AOL and all that stuff was really fast and cool. They're
Yeah.
still sitting there with that.
Wow. And you think that took a minute just to connect? Or I don't know, it's maybe several minutes. I have a friend that just lives in far western part of Fort Worth in Aledo, and he's got fairly reliable internet now, but a year or two ago it was he was always dropping off if we were having a Zoom or some kind of a connection. He's like, oh, the internet's down again. So yeah, and that's not even that rule. I mean, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
It's a pretty populated area. So
Yeah.
in that as competition's heating up, what do you feel is something that sets you and your team or your company apart from others that somebody would want to work with you guys?
We're able to pivot. So we're a custom manufacturer. We have a lot of cabinets that we've made for our customers. We're confident that essentially everything that we have to offer is universal. It's going to work for any network build. If it doesn't, then we have the ability to pivot. Our lead time is substantially better than most others that might say 18 to 20 weeks for 2 to 4 weeks,
Oh,
sometimes
nice.
3 to 5 business days. And then the design of the cabinet comes from engineers that have field experience. So there's a lot of small adjustments inside the cabinet that are made that make life easier for the person that's there working on it outside. Most people don't like to work on cabinets. I don't. I didn't. And so when I designed my cabinet, it made it so that life was a lot easier for those guys. and
That
it's a good price point for the guy sitting in the office.
that's nice because yeah, having that experience of working with on and in those cabinets probably really sets you apart on the design side. Just if it's just easier to reach a connection or something like all these little things that somebody's just building a box may not realize, but once you know that you have to access this one point or something, it's never easy. What great stuff. Is there something that you find easier that others may find challenging as you've gone through your career?
Easier. I feel like everybody in any kind of business, especially their own business, kind of at one point in time says, "What am I doing?" Like, is this going to work? And you gotta there's setbacks that happen, but they're all learning experiences. Anytime there's been an not a successful moment, it's always been a successful moment because then we can adjust, we can make those corrections, and then what we have to offer or what we do is a lot better. So everything happens for a reason. We're in a position now where we're building a 20,000 square foot warehouse. We have um, numerous clients that are going to be buying 50 to 100 cabinets at one time, and we're going to have the space to hold and ensure that they get it in a timely manner. So, that's just what you do right, what you do wrong, or
And
you just
that
got
I
to
think that's
understand.
awesome. We talk about resilience on the Flex Forward on our podcast, but having that mindset of a failure is not necessarily a failure is only a failure if you let it be. Are you going to learn from that failure and grow as an opportunity? It comes back to I've heard different numbers, but Thomas Edison um, eliminated like 10,000 different filaments for a light bulb, and he said something along the lines, "I didn't fail. I just eliminated." Things that didn't
Hmm.
work. I didn't have 10,000 failures to get there. I've heard 2,000 to 10,000, but at any rate, he tried a lot of different materials before he found one that worked for the light bulb, but kept going instead of throwing the towel in after 10.
Yeah.
So and then there's some stat on Michael Jordan how many free throws or I mean game winning shots he missed, but he would always go and practice more and learn. So just lots of good people that have had success that have overcome those failures and not let them keep them down or different things. So, if someone on the our podcast is listening, that's listening right now and wants to know some way to improve, something to do to help themselves improve, or anything, something that's helped you, do you have any suggestions for them?
I highly suggest having a very good routine for yourself, no matter what. If you want to be successful, be successful first thing in the morning. Like for me, that looks like waking up an earlier time frame, and like I wake up early, I go exercise, I have a good healthy breakfast in the morning. I take my dog out, and then my routine again starts, and then I can go through like what I'm going to do for that day with work, small things to accomplish, and then it's having a consistent routine that's going to help benefit yourself in the long run. And you don't got to wake up at 6 a.m. to go work out. That's kind of hard for everybody. But if you wake up at 8 and you want to wake up earlier, maybe wake up at 7:30 for a week, then wake up at 7:15 the next week, then wake up at, just work your way to where you want to be, but give yourself more time if that's what you need, or give yourself an accomplishment early in the morning. That's going to really help you set your mindset up right up here to be in a positive manner throughout whatever you're gonna work
Yeah.
through.
I love that. I work out first thing in the morning, at least usually 5, 6 days a week. So it's getting that challenging, hard thing done for early. But I love what you said, starting to, work your way back if you think, it's too early for you. But, I know if I don't get my workout first thing in the morning, something always fills my calendar and I would end up not getting it in the evening if I, when I try to do that. But yeah, I get up at about 10 to 5 every day, but Wednesday and Sunday, to work out. That's my same deal. I have a routine and then work out, come home, eat, get a good breakfast and get ready to go.
Hmm.
Is there something that you have found? What is one of your biggest challenges you've had to overcome through your career that you feel like you overcame it, and you learn from it and you're doing better from it?
Um, I would say, there's been clients that you get and you think it's going to turn into something really great, and then you end up losing the deal after maybe whatever they buy from you or whatever service you provide them. You think it's going to be this huge net profit for your business. And it sometimes doesn't go that way. And that's kind of what happened with me. And it was a matter of like what the design looked like and how the process went. Kind of like to explain it, like these cabinets, you'll put equipment inside of it, and it's like power equipment, and the problem was the way we mounted the equipment inside of the cabinet. We put it on the semi truck to ship it, across the country, and it got rattled up pretty bad. All the equipment fell, it got all damaged. It was a huge
Uh,
hit to me and my profit. I had to replace it all. And, it wasn't signed on the BOL from the shipping company, that they didn't inspect it. They said it was all good. And it was a big, big setback. And so we learned right there that we have to do things different. We lost the client too, but honestly, the client was a headache. They
okay.
were taking up a lot of time. If one little thing went wrong, then they hit you up, and then it's, oh man, I'm spending like 3 to 4 or 5, 6 hours, maybe a day or two, trying to fix this small issue for this one person versus taking all this time to find new opportunities. So just to let you know, if you're like dealing with somebody or some client or anybody and it just don't feel right, like it probably means you're not supposed to go that way. And it's okay. You don't need them.
Yeah, you don't need the headache. I mean, it's going to detract from other areas. Now, that's a great piece of advice. If somebody's being a headache in your life, move on.
Yeah.
Don't keep fighting for it. Open up that space for something more positive, or
Yeah.
somebody else to come in there. Great stuff.
Yeah. Don't push rope. Just make sure you're both
Yeah.
pulling together.
There you go. Wait, what a great analogy. Well, Nick, it sounds like things are going fairly well in your business, and other people in your industry or just in business in general. As they start having some success, start thinking about passive income. Either to help supplement their current income or potentially replace it at some point. What are your thoughts on passive income?
Passive income. So I've dabbled with stock trading. So, there are stocks options that I'm already invested into right now. And then I have a friend that's really into real estate. He does pretty good in certain states in the in the nation. So there's options for that. Looking at, maybe let's invest into a storage facility and have monthly revenue coming from that, or maybe a fourplex home or a small apartment complex. Things like that kind of passive income is what I'd probably look at in the future. And then right now, I kind of like cars and I really like driving. So it's kind of sound ridiculous, but like I really want a Suburban, but I don't want to pay for it. But if I like driving, then I can buy a Suburban. I know I can make anywhere from 2,500 to $3,000 a month driving an Uber, and that's only probably like 10 hours a week, maybe 12 hours a week. I can make that amount of money. So if I don't mind meeting some people, maybe find some people along the way that are in telecom that do it, or just some cool new friends, I'm gonna pay for my own Suburban. And then, I mean, that's not entirely passive income, but it's a fun toy
Yeah.
that I don't have to pay for and I get to keep.
Yeah, no, I hadn't thought about that. A way to hack a vehicle, just put in, would you say 10 hours a week or 10 hours a month or 10 hours a week to,
It's like 10 hours a week. Like I asked a guy, he said he makes X amount of money on a Friday or a Saturday. I asked him how much he makes going to the airport and back, and him doing that was $500 a week. I was like, one day and one trip to the airport and back is $500. Wow, that's literally like 6 hours. So you're telling
yeah,
me I could go out on a Friday and a Saturday. I could most likely pull in anywhere from $700 to $900 fairly easy, and that's just driving around. It's not that difficult. So
Yeah, no, that's awesome stuff. And that's a way if somebody wants a car, especially you're wanting a Suburban, that's, that you go into the higher level Ubers. You're not in a Toyota Corolla or something where you're going to, but I think it's the Uber Black where a Suburban would be the nicer one. Now
Yeah.
that's a neat hack. So good stuff. So as for wrapping up the interview, do you have any plans or initiatives in the next 6 to 12 months that you're kicking off or looking forward, or even if it's personal travel, anything like that you have coming up?
Just something we're really looking forward to is I have the biggest deal of this company's life on the line. We're probably gonna sign it here soon with a tier one company, and it's gonna project us into the next level. So, and I talked about the warehouse a little bit. I talked a little bit about the other clients we were already talking to and the amount of volume that they're gonna be purchasing from us. But what this deal right now is going to do is it's going to give me the capital to essentially, my warehouse will be paid off. The land it sits on will be paid off. I will hire, I already have one salesperson that I'm going to hire. I have a second salesperson that I'm going to hire. And then I'll probably be looking at 1 to 2 more. So I'll be bringing on 4 salespeople. And then there's conference shows that happen like once every month. They're usually about $5,000 to $7,000 just to be on the floor with your
Sure.
product for 2 or 3 days. So I'll take the capital from this big opportunity and I'm going to reinvest it into the next 6 months. So
Good. Then
basically,
that'll help you catapult you into more growth.
yeah, and I talked about that rural broadband initiative. It's basically like I think it's like $40 billion the government is giving various states. Every state's getting like 500 million to $1 billion to build
Wow.
out network. So Q1 and Q2 is when everybody's going to be purchasing this stuff, and then they're going to find out pretty quick that maybe their option one isn't going to be able to get them cabinets in a timely manner, and then they'll be reaching out to me. So we're going to be in a really good position here in about 6 months. We're going to be, the only problem is going to be too much work.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting. And then you can find, well, that's a good, you start looking at hiring somebody and automating. So yeah, that's a good problem to have. Rather have that than not enough work for
Yeah.
sure. Well, awesome, Nic. Thank you so much for coming on today and sharing some insights and tips with our listeners. If people would like to get in touch with you, learn more about what you do, what's the best way to go about that?
They can just look up icebergcabinet.com. You've got my email, my number on there. You can reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn as well. So if you want to find me on LinkedIn, I love LinkedIn. And we even have an Instagram, Iceberg Cabinet Instagram. So for our other listeners that are on social media, you have that option too. So we're on every social media platform. Just look for Iceberg Cabinet and you'll find us.
Awesome. Great stuff. Nic, thank you so much for joining us today. And everyone, thanks for listening. Please like the show and share it and pass it on to other people so they'll also be able to listen to it. And thanks, and everybody have a great day.
All right. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks for listening to the Flex Forward podcast. If you've got grit, growth, and a great story, visit flexforwardpodcast.com/guest to apply and join us on the show.